really we're live at this point. It's 7 o'clock. I know we're still waiting for George. If he doesn't log in, Maimona, you could chair the meeting while he comes. Unless you want to, we can give him a minute or two, but if not, we can get started.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sending George the link.
I would just go ahead and start me, Mona.
Superintendent Cruz, did he say that he's getting on?
Yeah, I just sent him the link again.
Yeah, well, I guess he can join us and we'll go ahead and get started then. So we will call the meeting to order, the open session at 7:03. And Superintendent, can you take roll, please?
Did you have the agenda in front of you? If not, I can go through
Oh,
the
am I
agenda.
on the wrong portion?
We're on 3.01 flag salute.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and start with the flag salute, item 3.01. Or actually, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 3.01.
Is that right?
Mhm.
So the flag salute, I'll go ahead and leave that for now. So please rise for the flag salute. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we have item 3.02, approve, disapprove additions to the agenda. Do we have any? Seeing
No.
none, we'll go to 3.03, approve, disapprove order of the agenda.
None.
Doesn't look like we have any there. Item 3.04, report of action taken in closed session. Superintendent Cruz.
The board unanimously approved the closed session minutes of October 27, 2020. There are no other actions to report.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and go to item 4, oral communications. Members of the public may address the board on any issue within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board or agenda items. Members of the public may also address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items. In accordance with board bylaws 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. No action can be taken on any agenda items at this time. Questions may be referred to the administration or put on a future agenda. So we'll go ahead and go to item 4.01, oral communications.
There are no members of the public that have signed up for oral communications. We do have a number of members of the public that want to address item 601.
Okay.
We do have, just so that the public does know, we do have 2 translators, a Vietnamese and Spanish translator for tonight's meeting. It was requested by speakers. So when we get to that item, I will have the 2 translators unmute themselves at that point, introduce themselves, and then we will, as we introduce the speakers, we will ask if they need translation, and we'll alternate between the speaker and then the translator at that point.
Thank you. So we will go ahead and go to item 5, recognitions, and we have item 5.01, global learners student recognition. And is it Assistant Superintendent Ratzi?
Yes, so thank you. It's always, this is one of the board meetings that I always look forward to, so that we can, recognize our students and our staff when we recognize our global learners and our employee spirit awards. It's unfortunate that we can't be in person to celebrate them and have them receive their certificate and their medal in person, but we wanted to still continue our tradition and recognizing students. So what we did is we invited them to come in and get their certificate and their medal, and we did have an opportunity to get a short video of most of them, not all of them. So what I want to do tonight is name each school and their student, and then on the conclusion of reading their names, I will play the video for the public. So I'm going to start off by, so the school, I'll say the school and the student's name. Again, these are obviously just, a few students that we get to recognize. We have a lot of students that, deserve to be recognized for the wonderful work that they do at their schools. And this is just one group that are put forward by the schools, and then here are identified district-wide. So from Bridges Academy, we have Litzy Hernandez. From College Connection Academy, we have Tao Trong. From Captain Jason Dahl, we have Sofia Gomez Tapia. From Franklin, we have Brisa Bravo Hernandez. From Hellier, we have Lynn Tran. From Kennedy, we have Bao Lee. From Daniel Larone, we have Emily Sanchez. From Los Arboles, we have Min Nin. From McKinley, we have Grayson Posas. From Meadows, we have Tree Nguyen. From Ramblewood, we have Joseph Alvarez. From Santee, we have Gabriel Biasas Smith. From Shirakawa, we have Imogen Christensen. From Stonegate, we have Vizal Vieng. From Silvendale, we have Jalen Munoz. And from Windmill Springs, we have Carson Liu. A big round of applause to these wonderful students and their families for their great work at our schools and their recognition tonight. So I'm going to play their video. Hopefully everything, let me get that screen. You're able to see my screen? Yes? Okay.
Litzy Hernandez. I go to Bridges Academy, and I want to say a special thanks to my teachers who nominated me for this award.
Hi, I'm Sophia, and I am from Doll School. My teacher is Mrs. Fuentes.
Hi, my name is Brisa. I'm from Franklin School, and I'm from Mr. Alvarado's class.
Hi, my name is Lynn Chan, and I go to Hellier.
Hi, I'm Tree Nguyen. I'm from Meadows Elementary. Hi, my name is Emily Sanchez. I go to Larone Academy, and my teacher is Miss McGanna.
My name is Min. I go to About Elementary School. My name is Joseph Alvarez, and I go to Ramblewood, and my teacher is Miss Baumrugen. My name is Patrick Lee. I'm from Robert F. Kennedy, and I'm in 6th grade. Hi, I'm Gabriel. I'm from 6th grade, Tennessee Elementary Schools.
Sol Bay. I go to Stoneby Elementary, and I'm honored to be nominated.
My name is Celine Munoz. I'm in middle school, and thank you.
So thank you to all the students. Congratulations. Thank you to Annette and Samer for putting the videos together. We wanted to make sure that we just didn't read their names. We wanted to make sure that we could showcase them, even if it's virtually. So thank you for doing that. All right.
I'm back. Well, congratulations to all the Global Learners students for the great job they're doing at their school, and especially this very trying year. So congrats, students. Great job. Keep it up. At this time, we'll go on. Should we go on to 502? Is that let's go on to 502, the employee. Now we have the Employee Spirit Award. Superintendent?
Yes, and again, this is one of those times when we get to celebrate our staff, knowing that there's a lot of our staff that are out there that are very deserving of being recognized, but we get to, make, Annette and the schools get to make the tough choices of, having to select just one for every one of these categories. And so we know we have very deserving staff out there, and today we get to recognize and celebrate these staff members that we're bringing forward today. So I am going to share the screen here. Can you see the screen? Yes. So the first staff member that we want to recognize under the core value of student focus is Mr. Jeff Carver from Kennedy Elementary School. Thank you, Mr. Carver, for everything you're doing for our students. The next one under partnership, we want to recognize Ms. Audrey Montejano from Hellier Elementary School. And she is under the category, the core value of partnership. Under the core value of integrity from Sylvandale Middle School, we have Mr. Tuan Ann Nguyen. Under the category of respect, we have Ms. Van Pham from Franklin Elementary. And right next to her, we have the principal, Christina Ravo from Franklin, under the core value of innovation. So Franklin had two this night. And under the core value of teamwork, we have Ms. Mariana Moore from Windmill Springs School. So congratulations, staff, for your recognition tonight. And we thank you on behalf of the entire FMSD community for your commitment and your support for our students and families.
And I just want to extend my congratulations to all the employees who were awarded recognition this night. on behalf of the school board. So keep up the great work, staff members. You're wonderful out there in the classroom, especially this year. Again, trying year for everyone. So thank you very much. Juan, let me back up a little bit. Did we do oral communications? We completed that already, right?
Yes, there were no oral communications.
None? Okay. All right. Okay, let's go on to item number 6, board members. Item number 6 deals with information, discussion, and or action items. So we go to 6.01, and this is the recommendation to the board regarding the district's instructional program for January 2021.
So tonight we have a short presentation that will then conclude with the recommendation we have before the board, and we do have a number of speakers that have signed up to speak on this agenda item, Board President. So we, as I mentioned earlier before you got on, we do have also translators. We have parents that had asked for to have translators available to address the board tonight. So at this point, I am going to ask for the translators to unmute themselves so they're ready for when we get to that portion of the agenda. So I'm gonna, Norma and I are going to go through the presentation. So she's gonna lead us off, and then I will take it over after that.
So good evening. Today's purpose of our very, very short presentation is to propose a recommendation to our Franklin-McKinley School District Board of Trustees regarding the instructional model that we would like to propose for January. As you know, you voted to have us in distance learning until December, until the end of the year. And December 18th is our last student day. And so today we would like to update you on the feedback we've received from our various stakeholders and to answer questions. Next slide, please. So yes, you voted that we implement distance learning until the end of the year. So then the decision that we need to make, or you need to make today rather, is what will we do in January when the students return from their holiday break, from their December break. So as you may be aware, the state has a blueprint system of monitoring COVID cases. We started off in purple way back in March. And over time, we have been monitoring the cases in our county and in our school district. And slowly but surely, we've been moving down to less risky level. So right now we are in the orange or the moderate tier of this system. Next slide. However, in Franklin-McKinley School District, where our geographic area is in the county, even though we are in the orange tier, we are in the area of the dark blue, the darker shade of blue, and those are our zip codes for the families that we serve. And you can see that the darker the shade, the higher the cases of COVID.
So given that information, we have still continued to provide in-person instruction or in-person support with Coral, and this is a picture of a classroom that is being utilized and how it's set up with desks socially distant from each other, with the plexiglass barriers around the desks, with the teacher desk, again 6 feet from the students. So these are the guidelines that public health set forward for any in-person support, where only 12 students maximum for every 1 adult is allowed in a classroom setting with regular disinfecting and making sure that we follow those procedures and that we are posting those the fact that we have those procedures in place, visible in our front doors of our schools with a check mark, a red check mark that indicates that we have submitted our procedures and that we are following those safety protocols per public health. We also have the staff and the students doing daily screening check-ins as recommended by public health. So this is the feedback we received from staff. We have 474 staff members respond, and that was classified, certificated, and management. And so you can see that, overwhelmingly, 75% of our staff reported that they are very concerned with returning in person, given the data that Norma just indicated in terms of where we are in terms of the cases. And certainly we are anticipating that data to change based on what we're hearing just this week in regards to the increased positive cases that are occurring across the nation and certainly here in Santa Clara County. The 68% of our staff have indicated that we should be focusing on improving distance learning as our approach, and that 71% of our staff have indicated that they prefer that we stay in distance learning for now. And the reasons being, obviously, overall concern about just being exposed and potentially being infected or, with COVID-19 are the reasons for why they believe that we should stay in 100% distance learning. We also surveyed parents, and this is, we had 830 responses from parents. And here you can see 51% of our parents are requesting that we also stay in full distance learning for now, with 26% families willing to come in and provide for us to provide a hybrid model, and 20%, 100% in person moving forward. We also had town hall meetings for parents and staff where very much the feedback was aligned with what the surveys were indicating. The parents were asked, if we did have an opportunity to have some in person, who would they prioritize? And you can see here that the highest number there is for students with IEPs, followed by our youngest learners and then our newcomers. So this is the recommendation we bring forward to the board. Given the conditions that are in our community, given the information we're receiving from public health agencies that the winter months, the cold months are anticipated to be of concern in terms of the spread of the virus. And the feedback we've received from parents and staff, it is our recommendation that we stay in full distance learning through February 12th, which would get us to our winter break, or what is usually called ski week, and give us an opportunity to see how these months fare out in terms of the mitigation of the spread in our community, with updates to the board in December and January, where we would continue to monitor the situation to ensure that we can propose an in-person or continue the distance learning based on the safety of our students, our families, and our staff. And at this point, we're open to questions of the board, or unless Board President, did you want to move to the public first?
Yeah, we can do that. Why don't we go ahead and get the public input, and then the board will go ahead and ask their questions at that after we get the public input.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead here for the attendees. So Mara and Tina, can you guys say something so we know that your mics are working, please?
Hi, everybody. This is Mara.
I'm Tina.
Okay.
Mara.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to call each speaker and have them unmute, and then I will ask them if they need translation, and then this way you know if you're on, okay?
Okay.
I am going to call on Alma Gomez. Alma González Amaya.
Buenas noches.
¿Necesita traducción?
Sí, por favor.
Ok, comience con sus comentarios y Mara la va a interpretar, ¿ok?
Sí, gracias.
Buenas noches, señora Alma. Soy Mara.
Buenas noches, gracias. Mira, mi comentario sería que yo para mí no estoy de acuerdo con que regresen a las clases en persona porque yo veo que ahorita ya habían dicho que iba a ser la peor temporada por lo del flu y el virus por el frío. Entonces, enero y febrero son unos meses muy fríos. Personalmente, dos de mis hijos tienen asma y lo que veo es que en las clínicas están cerrados. O sea, si a mis hijos les pasa algo, yo no los puedo llevar porque no quieren atender a nadie en las clínicas. A mis hijos
¿Me
les
permite
tocaba.
traducir hasta allí?
Sí, gracias.
So one of her comments is that she is not in agreement to have students go back to in-person because of the upcoming flu season. She believes January and February are months that are really, really cold. Like her two sons, they have asthma, and it's very hard to find open clinics just because of what's going on. Adelante, señora Alma.
Sí, a mis hijos les tocaba su chequeo físico en abril y junio. Ellos no los tuvieron, no los han tenido y es lo que ellos están diciendo, o sea que no pueden atender niños en las clínicas porque no quieren que el virus sea propagado en esos lugares. Otra cosa es, mi hijo, el grande, tiene asma. Hace unos días estuvo un poco enfermo, le veía yo que tenía tos y le llamé a su doctora y lo que hizo fue mandarme al chequeo del COVID y yo le llamaba porque como tiene asma estaba preocupada más por el asma porque yo sé que mis hijos no salen de casa, no se reúnen con otras personas, pero no porque no me reúna con otras personas, la demás gente está haciendo lo mismo que yo lo veo y no está pasando eso. Hay muchos niños jugando afuera, reuniéndose las familias unas con otras y yo sé dónde me meto yo, pero yo no sé dónde se mete la demás gente.
Okay. And also, for example, her kids had appointments for the checkup in April and in June, and they have been unable to go because they don't want to be exposed. So she took one of her sons because he was coughing just to, have him checked, and ended up having the COVID checkup. And that worries her more because she knows that it was not that. It's about what his condition with asthma is. So she can speak about how much care she takes in regards to following the guidelines, but she cannot speak for others. She doesn't know what other people would do. Sí, señora Alma. ¿Algo más?
Sería, bueno, una pregunta. En caso de que den el permiso para regresar los niños a la escuela, a mí como madre o tutor me darían la opción de decir que quiero que mis hijos se queden en casa o quiero que vuelvan a la escuela.
So she has a question, and she would like to know if there's going to be decision to have students go back. Are you guys going to take in consideration what their parents or guardians think about that or would like to do about it? That's a question.
Yeah, so the answer would be we would be providing an opportunity for those that do not want to come in person to continue in distance learning, even if we went back in person, just like we had planned back in July.
Sí, señora, la respuesta sería que sí van a dar la oportunidad de alternativas para aquellos padres que no deseen que sus hijos pues regresen a clases en persona.
Ok, muchas gracias.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, let me go down the list of those that have signed up. Maria Landin, I don't see Maria Landin on these. Yolanda Flores. Robin Quinn. Erika Surio. Abigail Feria. If you can unmute yourself, please. Abigail, did you need translation? ¿Necesita traducción?
No, but you know, do you guys want me to pause for translation into Spanish or?
No, that's fine. The translators are here to translate from parents.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So my best friend is currently disabled from getting COVID back in March, and she could die from the complications that she still experiences, and it's really terrifying. So this is a deeply personal issue for me, as it is for so many people. And I just want to say for that I'm a teacher. I teach second grade at Dahl. I've been watching my students in the choral classes with interest to see how is it working in those distance classrooms. And I can tell you that what I've been seeing there has been what I've been afraid of. They don't know how to wear their masks properly. Their masks are often below their noses. They're going up to each other. So even though they have those plexiglass screens, you know, teacher looks away for a second and they run up to each other. And I've been teaching for a decade, but if I turn my back, a kid could do whatever they wanted to do because I don't have eyes in the back of my head. It doesn't matter how good the teacher is. Kids will still make mischief and they don't understand the serious implications of it. 3 of my students got sick within 2 weeks of one another. And this was after a student had been exposed in their choral class. And this was just students in my class that I knew of that got sick. There could have been more in the class, and I'm guessing that there were. And I asked my students, oh, are you going to the doctor? Or are you going to get any kind of test? And they said no. And they stayed home and their parents didn't get them any tests. And I watched one of them look really, really ill. And she was miserable like every day for 2 weeks until she finally started feeling better. And then another one is still getting sore throats like a month later, over a month later. And, you know, if we can't force families to get tested, but it's very possible that those kids had COVID and we don't know. And how many kids are walking around asymptomatic? So, you know, we may set this time in February to see, oh, should we reopen? But the reality is that we're not going to have a vaccine by then. We're not going to have an effective treatment by then. If you're following the science, you know that even if we have a very successful vaccine, that it's not going to be widely available probably until could be mid or late next year if we're lucky. And if half the population doesn't want to take the vaccine, it's going to take a longer time for us to be able to turn this from a pandemic to a low-key illness. This is something that's unprecedented. And I think we need to do what University of California has done and say, we will not be returning in person through June. The rest of this entire school year is distance learning because that is what is scientifically sound. We know that it's not getting better and that it could get worse this winter and to keep us in that anxiety limbo of, okay, well, we're going to reassess it, we're going to reassess it, we're going to reassess it, while we're seeing people in our very lives get affected by this horrible disease, is very stressful on our staff, and it's very stressful on the families. We love our community. We don't want to put them in danger. And we know that kids aren't capable of truly socially distancing and of wearing masks properly. So we need to do the right thing and say that we won't be opening up in person for the rest of the 2020-21 school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Abigail. Jennifer Gustamantes, I do not see on there. Fabiola Gonzalez, Miley Aguiar, Lily Nguyen, Maria Esmeralda Ceves. Okay, so I'm going to go to the board members of the public that are on the list here. Sulicuel Bautista.
Sí.
¿Necesita traducción, señora?
Sí.
Okay.
Excuse me, can you repeat her last name? Her name?
Bautista.
Bautista.
Suliquel.
Suliquel. ¿Es
Ok.
Franklin, ¿verdad?
Bueno. ¿Perdón?
¿Es de Franklin?
Sí. Ya me conoce, señor Cruz.
Comentario.
Buenas tardes a
Se escucha cortado.
Yo estoy de acuerdo en parte que regresen los niños a la escuela.
No se escucha bien.
No, el internet, tal vez.
Ya está mejor.
Ya es mejor.
Ok. Estoy de acuerdo en parte que regresen los niños a la escuela, los papás que trabajan y que desean que sus niños regresen. Y también si está la opción de algunos papás que no quieran llevar sus niños, también sea respetada esa parte. Entonces, aquí la cuestión, mi pregunta es si los maestros ya han tomado cursos o están preparándose para recibir a los niños y ya están tomando las medidas, están practicando, porque hay clases de coral y creo que les va muy bien. Entonces ya esa es una estadística de que vamos bien. Mi punto de vista es de que sí regresen los niños a la escuela. Con la opción de los papás que no quieran llevarlos, también se respete.
Okay, so she said that she is hard in agreement for students to return to in-person to class. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, especially for parents that work, she would like to see that parents are respected as to making a decision whether they could return, whether their kids can return to class. And she would like to know if teachers are starting to get training and how they would be doing in these scenarios, because her point is that she would like to see students go back to school. The statistics is showing that it can go well based on what Coral is experiencing.
But she also indicated that she would want the option of those parents that do not want to come into a person, that they would have that option.
Correct. ¿Algo más, señora Bautista?
No, es todo. Gracias.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
And then I have a phone number 1-408-389-9560 that is signed up, but I don't have a name. So if you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself. All right, let me move on to then Scott Jones.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So while there is no doubt that in-person instruction is superior for our students, and it's also the case that teachers are working much harder under distance learning, it's clear that the safety of our students, parents, and staff must be prioritized at this time. It's just not safe to return to in-person instruction in January. A few districts in our county may end up reopening in January, but few, if any, have the prevalence of COVID that we have in our area. The surveys of staff and parents show that there is a preference to remain in distance learning for now. As a district, we have the technology and strategies in place, and teachers and students are getting better and better at utilizing distance learning. It may be less than ideal, but it's better than the alternative, which is to increase sickness and potential death. For now, I must strongly recommend and request that we remain in distance learning. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration of this important issue.
Board President, those are all the speakers I have.
Okay, well, thank you very much to all the speakers who came before us and gave us their input and helped us make the decision that we're making on this particular agenda item. Okay, all right. So, so 6.02.
Board President,
go ahead.
I just saw one of the ones that had signed up to speak.
Okay.
So, Maria Esmeralda Ceres, you can.
¿Me escuchan?
Sí, aquí está Mara para traducirle, si puede comenzar con sus comentarios.
Ok.
No, dele un tiempo, hable poco y dele tiempo a Mara para que pueda...
Claro, claro. Pues buenas noches. Yo soy una mamá de Helger. Y he mirado que están pasando muchas cosas en las escuelas, como sobre el trabajo de los maestros. También hay muchos papás que quieren que sus hijos regresen. Entonces, mi pregunta es, ¿qué tan seguro es que los niños regresen? Cuando yo muchas veces miraba el trabajo de los janitors, entonces, ¿qué seguridad tienen los niños de que van a estar bien? De que el janitor va a hacer su trabajo.
Okay. Dice la señora, Mrs. Seves said she is a mom from Hellier, and she has the looking at the work teachers have been doing, everything, all the jobs that have been done through this process, and that parents want their kids to go back to school, but how secure it is for them to return. How are the janitors prepared for them to return? Because she have observed all the, what is taking place at the school. She would like to know that.
Porque el problema es decirlo, pero ya al hacerlo, llevarlo a cabo, eso es otra cosa. Entonces, ¿quién se va a asegurar de que estén haciendo el trabajo correctamente? Porque es la vida de los niños, no es cualquier cosa. Eso es lo que yo me he preguntado muchas veces. Y otra cosa, que los
¿Puedo traducirle eso?
Okay, sí, está bien.
Gracias. She said that it's like one thing is to say it and another thing is to implement it. Who is going to make sure that the kids are going to be safe? Because we're not talking about something light, but it's about the life of the children. Adelante, señora.
Okay, también a lo que me refiero de del trabajo de los maestros es de que tienen que motivar más a los niños. Yo entiendo la situación en la que estamos y entiendo a los maestros porque es más trabajo para ellos todavía. Entonces, hay que ser realistas de que los niños no se van a motivar en estar sentados en una silla viéndola como habla dando la clase. No es lo mismo estar de pie y corriendo, jugando con sus amigos, platicando, haciéndole preguntas a la maestra. No es lo mismo. Entonces yo he estado mirando en mi hijo que a veces él ya no quiere entrar porque no tiene motivación su maestra. Y me preocupa porque el niño inclusive ayer me hizo el comentario de que le están enseñando lo mismo que vio en tercero. Entonces, yo siento que mi hijo no está aprendiendo. Me gustaría que regresara así, pero realmente mi pregunta es esa y mi miedo, de que es muy fácil decir que todo va a estar bien y que van a hacer su trabajo las personas que se van a encargar de limpiar, de cuidarlos, pero hay que ser realistas. El decirlo es muy fácil, pero al llevarlo a cabo es otra cosa. Entonces, sí estoy de acuerdo en cierta parte de que los niños regresen, pero existe ese miedo. Entonces, yo por mi parte prefiero que se quede en casa, porque sí es muy difícil tomar la vida de los niños en nuestras manos y saber, desgraciadamente nosotros no sabemos si es la decisión correcta. Es todo lo
Gracias.
que quiero decirles.
Okay. So she reiterate that she has seen teachers working, that she understands that teachers are working harder, but students are not motivated the way it is. As it is right now, it's not the same to have a teacher on a screen versus having a student in the environment where there are other children and they can ask questions to the teacher. That she is worried about her son not learning what he needs to, that her son was telling her that he was repeating the material that he had covered, I guess third grade she mentioned, I think. So again, she said she's very concerned about what are they going to do with the responsibility of those that are going to be in front of the decision of bringing students back to the school. She actually, right now, she's so afraid that she would rather have her son to stay at home. She doesn't know if all this is a good decision, but definitely she would like to know how is everything going to be handled the way things are. I think that's my summary.
Okay, that is the last of the speakers, Board President.
Okay, thank you. Thank you once more to all the speakers, and thank you for your time, and we'll definitely take your input into consideration this evening. At this time, on item 6.01, I want to have the board members, or Juan, did you want to go ahead and say anything else before the board members start asking questions?
No, we're open to answer questions from the board.
Okay. All right, board members. So if you have some questions now, go ahead and ask at this time. I can go down the line here too. Rudy, did you have anything that you want to ask right now or comment on regarding this?
Yes, I have a question and comment. I think that's good to just go right down the line. So anybody can answer from our staff. What was the reason? What was the thought process of picking the date that you picked? What was it? February 12th? Is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay, versus the day before spring break, which is April the 2nd. Because the reason why I asked that is because winter goes all the way. February 12th is in the middle of winter still.
Yeah, that was just the next, long vacation.
Before the break?
Before the break.
Okay. All right. So then April the 2nd wasn't in consideration. I might see if we could move it to April the 2nd at the earliest, if not go all the way till June. But February the 12th is, in my opinion, is way, way, way too early, because I know that we're going to be in the middle of winter, and just in regards to the presentation, we are no longer in the orange area. We are in red again. We've moved up back to red, and I just saw it in the Mercury. And this morning, I actually sent it with my list of questions that I sent. And I know the entire board saw those questions, so I'm not going to repeat any of those questions that I asked. But I know that it was asked by another board member that that there wasn't enough details in the either the presentation or the plan, and I think the board needs to review the entire plan before we make a decision on this, even especially for February the 12th. Overwhelmingly, our parents and staff and teachers and staff are concerned about opening during the winter, and February 12th is in winter. So those are all the questions I have, George.
Okay, thank you, Rudy. Carrie?
Yeah, for me, I agree as well. I do feel that the February date that's being suggested by the district is too premature, considering the rise we're currently seeing in cases. I personally would like to see it pushed all the way through the end of June, so the end of the school year for this academic year. I know at my job, we're not required to go back on site till June, and honestly, it's optional for us. I would like to see, though, more details in regards when this is brought back to the board, as far as how you're going to actually execute it, because that's my main concern. I feel like that hasn't been fully planned out, and that's kind of making me a little nervous. So I would like to see more detail in regards how you're going to execute, as far as what procedures are going to follow, how you're going to train everyone, and communicate it effectively. I just want to prevent chaos.
So I just, if I could, we did not submit the plans because we were not recommending for starting in person. We just now, once again, the public health has changed the guidelines, and we received those today, and we will have to submit those to the county public health in very much detail, like we have been following for the Coral in-person program. No school district, no school can offer in-person instruction without submitting those new plans, updated plans. They have to be publicly posted on our websites. And once they have reviewed and accepted those, we would receive the clearance to post what a green apple next to the red check mark that you see, at all the businesses that have submitted their plans for review and for those locations to be open because they're following public health. So if we were to be preparing for in-person, you would see them, public health would have to review them in anticipation of us being able to open.
One last thing, I know right now we're offering on-site through Coral, but it's very limited. I believe it's 12 students per site. Yeah. So for those,
that's 12 students per classroom. We have over 500, and we will be expanding that to close to 700 in the next couple of weeks. I was able to get $200,000 from First Five to expand our in-person Coral support. So we have 10 schools, a little bit over 500 students supported right now.
Do you have a wait list in regards to that?
Yes, that's why we are opening the additional classrooms with the funding from First Five.
Okay. No other comments, George.
Thank you, Carrie. Ton?
Juan, which school districts, if you could remind me, have confirmed that they will be starting in-class instruction starting January?
I mean, the only one that comes to mind right now that I know has announced that is San Jose Unified, that has made the decision to move to in-person come January. Our surrounding districts are in the same situation that we are in terms of deciding and for January.
I know Palo Alto Unified and Moreland and Union are opening up in the next month.
Yeah, thank you for that. The other thing is just I know the February 12th date was decided before we jump back into the red, but I mean, I just see it as another opportunity for us to extend it come that date if situations don't improve by then. And then the contrary can also be taken into consideration too, is even if we decide to close the school district until the end of the school year, we still have the opportunity to, granted if things do get better and the timeline does improve beyond what we're seeing now, that we have the ability to open up before that date as well. So either option works with me. So just putting it out there for the board members.
Thank you, Tan. Maimona?
Yeah, I was curious on the breakdown of needs and input by school site. I'm just wondering, obviously we have a couple of different zip codes in Franklin-McKinley, so I was wondering if there was any variance there in the responses.
We got responses from all schools. That was the good thing. There was, I don't believe that there was any something that popped out in terms of one school predominantly wanting to come in or not. We can certainly go back to that and continue to get more individualized school feedback. The zip codes that we serve are all in that dark blue, that's for sure. There's no section of our district that is not in that dark blue.
I guess my reason for asking that question is more around how are we identifying where we do have some more high needs areas in terms of parent needs, student needs, where do we have it? I mean, I know in some areas we do have a higher number of families or parents who are either first responders, essential workers. And so just wondering what the type of, how we're accounting for that. I think it goes back to just overall questions of even if this recommendation is through February, what does that look like to provide the supports that we need based on an individualized level? How are we collecting that data from school sites?
So in terms of the Coral program, we did identify the 10 schools where those are being offered by a needs assessment, parents requesting the in-person support. And so based on the concentration of where those requests were coming from, those were the schools that were identified to open the programs. And then those schools that had requests were assigned to their adjacent school from that standpoint. So if there was only 2 or 3 kids there was only a handful of kids from Kennedy, those were assigned to Santee, where there were a lot more requests for in-person support. The expansion is also based on where the wait list is from what schools they're coming from. And so I can tell you that is McKinley and Santee, and followed by Franklin. So those are where we will be expanding additional classrooms for those students.
Okay, yeah, that's more or less what I was asking, is where there was the need or where there was the interest to provide more support to students, which I think can be accomplished with Coral. So I am fully in support of continuing distance learning. I think one of the other considerations, and hopefully the reopening advisory committee is taking this into account, but anytime we have a transition, I mean, moving from fully online to even considering a hybrid model, that is an incredible amount of transition work that we are asking of our students, of our families, and also of our teachers. It's taken quite a bit of time to get under these routines and try to find out, figure out the best, most effective ways to teach under these circumstances. And so I guess that's just a concern of mine. If we transition into some type of hybrid or in-person reopening, that would be my concern, is how are we prepared for that reopening? Because I do think we need to do a better job communicating what that could look like to our staff, to our parents, to the families, so that everyone's clear of what that could look like. But two, understanding that that's going to take, quite a bit of transition. And if we're waiting really till the end of the school year, at that point, is it better just to invest in really enhancing what our distance learning program looks like and really building that out robustly, and continuing, specifically making sure that we are providing the highest quality supports that we can at a more individualized level. So just wanted to put that out there, because I know, again, I just want to reiterate that the transitions are going to be challenging. So especially, and I understand that, especially as a teacher right now, trying to plan for what's to come. So I think the more consistencies we can establish and communicate, the better off we'll be, the better off our students will be. Thank you.
Those are all great points. And those were that was the discussion that the advisory committee had in regards to coming up with this recommendation, that we would continue to really plan thoughtfully about how to improve distance learning. What are the things that still the staff need in order to provide that higher level of instruction that we know we need to sort of continue to provide for students. And at the same time, preparing for a possible in-person, whether it's the whole district making that decision because it's safe enough, or considering that we still need to provide potentially some smaller group, like it was indicated there, with students with IEPs or younger learners, if conditions are right. I've said this at all the town hall meetings. My recommendation to any in-person would mean that we have the means and the ability to keep our staff and our students and our families as safe as possible. And we are, having to monitor all the conditions, whether it's the infection rates, whether it's the ability for us to have the staff and the supplies, and all those things need to be there for us to make that recommendation to you that we are ready to be in person. And certainly we're trying that out, with the Coral program. And I can say that we have not had outbreaks of COVID within the Coral program. The comment was about students getting sick, and that's just were colds. But we have not, I'm knocking on wood, we have not had an outbreak of COVID in any of those settings, even though there have been exposures. And so we have taken the appropriate steps under public health guidelines to mitigate the spread there as well. And so I just want to make sure that the board knows that if we were to bring a recommendation to you that we would be in person, we would have all that before you for your consideration, so that you are confident that we've taken all the steps to make that happen.
Excuse me, Juan, were those students tested for COVID?
The ones that were exposed, yes.
No, I'm talking about the students that were ill.
I can't tell you for sure.
So if they weren't tested, if we don't know if they were tested, how do we know they didn't have COVID? You just said they didn't have COVID.
Well, what parents reported was a cold, and
but they weren't tested though, so we don't know if they had COVID or not, right? Yeah, I think we better be careful how we say, because I know the teacher that I think it was, what was her name, Abigail? She mentioned that she didn't know if they were tested or not, so we don't know if they had it or not, or they could be asymptomatic.
I can just tell you that we have not had any reports of any student that have been served within Coral that have tested positive. That is a fact. We had some students that were exposed by family members that had been tested positive, and they were tested negative. And then any contact tracing that we've done of staff or students that have tested positive have also come back negative. That I know, but you're right. I do not know about those 2 students that were sick. We just know that we have not gotten any reports of any positive cases beyond
that. I do have one more question, George. So we have the protocols set in place for our school sites. How about charter schools within our school district?
What was that, Tom?
How about the charter schools within our boundaries? Have they decided on extending?
We are reaching out to them to get their plans as a part of our oversight if they are coming in person, and they have to follow the same guidelines that we have to do in public health in terms of submitting those to public health and publicly putting them on their website before they can actually do in person. They have to do that 14 days in advance. So I can tell you that none of them have submitted that because that just was released today at our 2 o'clock meeting.
Great, thank you.
And Juan, those are just if they want to reopen for in-person learning, not if they're doing distance learning, they don't have to submit a plan at all, right?
No, we do. We all have to submit plans for in the event that we are going to do in person. So that is still because they want us, if they want us to be able to also outline all the other steps that we're taking for mitigating for anybody coming into our buildings. And since we have Coral, we will have to do that.
Okay, Maimona, do you have anything else? Maimona?
No, I think I had everything addressed.
Okay, I think in terms of the plan for February the 12th, I always saw that as something where another discussion would take place, Juan, coming from you and cabinet in terms of where we're at that time. I never saw February the 12th as a date like, that's where we're gonna go back to the classroom, But I always saw it as when you would have more information for us in terms of what the next steps would be, and I could see where pushing it further down might be more feasible. Get past the winter season, and then take a look whether we would continue on distance learning or just go back or possibly go back to some type of classroom setting. The students that concern me are the kids with the IEPs, very concerned about them. I'm also concerned about our ELD population in terms of the language acquisition skills. And I think those are the groups that worry me. But again, safety is paramount, above all things. We want to make sure that our kids and our staff are safe if we ever did decide to go back to a classroom setting of some type with all the safeguards, protocols that would be put in place. But if not February the 12th, would there be another date further down, that kind of a break, and when you can bring us more information? Or do you think, or Juan, do you think that February 12th would be the day that you want to stay with, or would you is it better to push it down a little bit more, again, past the winter season?
Yeah, so good question. And I think that I forgot to mention this. Part of the discussion with the advisory committee was sort of at this point in February, knowing that that's still the winter, and if conditions are as bad as people project, that we would probably at that point consider, and this goes to Vice President Alberta's comment in regards to how difficult the transition would be, that at that point, if the conditions were such that we would still continue to recommend distance learning, that we probably at that point would recommend all the way through June. Mm-hmm. Simply because of the transition and how difficult all that would be, the reorganization of classrooms, and for those students that do want to come in, and for those that they want to stay in distance learning. At a certain point, we want to not have to disrupt that for just a few more weeks or a month or so left in the school year. So the discussion we had was that seemed to be sort of a threshold that if we didn't think that we were going to be able to reopen because of the conditions, that at that point we would make a decision to recommend for staying distance learning through June to avoid having to retool everything, reset everything, barely getting into handling hybrid when the school is going to be over. So that's what the thought process was in the discussion with the advisory group in the recommendation we're bringing forward.
George?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Go ahead, Rudy.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we continue distance learning until June 15th.
I'll second that.
Board, so you wanna put that as a motion, Rudy, and of course second.
I did put that as a motion already.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
And my views, in all likelihood, we are probably, even if we were to keep that day, we would still probably go distance learning the rest of the school year.
June 15th is the last day of school.
Correct.
So I already made the motion and it was seconded.
So, something for discussion or a vote.
So I do have a comment. I know we're able to do discussion after the motion and second. So I would just say that if we are moving forward with this decision, then I do think we need to have substantive information on exactly how these are specific high needs populations are going to be supported. And especially for teachers to if we're continuing this, it needs to, what are the specific programs? How is all of that continuously being communicated and updated? And then the second piece is, for the sake of clarity and communication, I just wanted to point out that if we make this decision to go for the rest of the school year, if we do for whatever reason, have a need or have some type of miraculous turnaround, then it would be a lot more confusing to our staff and students. So, I'm not saying that I'm not in favor of distance learning, but I just wanted to put that out there that I do think we need to make sure that this is communicated as clearly as possible to our entire district community.
Yeah, George, can I go ahead and tag along with that? And I agree with everything Maimona said, because it's, to be honest, I didn't receive any details on how we're reopening. So, I mean, all I saw was a presentation. So if we can get the plan that you guys are submitting to the county or wherever it's being submitted, and maybe even get an outline of the process. I know we got that. I'm sorry, we did receive that because it's also on the county website. But if we can get a copy of our plan, there's a lot of details that we're missing, and I know that 3 board members asked a lot of questions, and they were saved, on our shared file, and they're going to be put into the minutes because a lot of those questions were not included in the presentation, and we didn't know what the answers were. I was actually very nervous about opening on February the 12th, just because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know exactly how it was happening. And, a lot of the questions that we asked were related to the safety of our teachers and our students. And if they weren't answered in the presentation and we didn't know the answers, and then we were expected to vote on that, I don't think that was a very fair presentation, because it didn't include any of the details that we were asking for.
So, George, I can say something about that.
John, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, I just don't want our school district to pull the trigger too quick into shutting down the possibility of going back to a hybrid model the entire school year. I like what Juan suggested and the thought process behind the advisory committee here. I never took that February 12th date as the intention of us reopening our schools exactly at that date. It's more of, let's get that information more readily available for everybody. Let's get the advisory committee more time to provide us that detailed plan by that date, and us knowing more information about our circumstances and conditions at that date. And if we know it's not safe to open, nor do we have a set plan that is good enough for the current condition, the climate we're in at that time, then we would extend it to the end of the year. But I wouldn't want to bypass that conversation just by immediately deciding to close that option for us to even discuss the possibility of coming back with a hybrid model.
I'd like to say something.
Thank you, Ton. Carrie, go ahead.
So the main reason I decided to second Rudy's motion was we can't keep people in limbo. As you heard with Maimona mention, it's going to be a big transition. So it's going to take a lot of planning. And we know it's not going to happen in February. So why continue putting people in limbo? The teachers, the staff, the students, the parents need something more concrete. And if we keep pushing it out 2-3 months, and we know it's not going to happen, we might as well push it out to the end of the school year.
Well, I understand that. The messaging for this one I can see is a little bit confusing for parents to understand, but it shouldn't be messaged as February 12th is the date we're going to decide to reopen the school. Rather, February 12th is the date that the board will reconvene to look at the circumstances and conditions to then extend all the way to the end of the school year if needed. But at that, how I'm understanding this is just removing the option to even discuss what potentials could happen in the next 3 months.
So if I could, I would just clarify that we would bring to the board in December an update. And then again, in the first meeting in January, another update and considering all the conditions. Again, whether there's, the infection rates, how is that going, whether, possibilities of vaccine like we heard today. So, and at that meeting, we would make a determination whether it looks like it's feasible for us to reopen in February or start in person in February. And if not, at that point, we, determine whether we call the rest of the school year as in distance learning. All along knowing that we have to still continue to provide support to our students, our families, and our staff. So I just want to make sure that that is clear. In our advisory group was very adamant that we need to do something different for those students that are disengaged and currently not being successful in distance learning. So that's going to happen regardless of the decision that you make in terms of February or not. We have an obligation to those students that are struggling right now.
George?
Juan, are you, hold on, Rudy. Juan, are you saying then that that you'll bring more information to us, and of course in December you're going to keep giving us more information in December and also through January, and maybe I know that we might be pushing it in February in terms of if we're would make any change, but you might be able to make a decision even sooner than that, and that's what I gathered from your comments. Could be even sooner that we could say yes or no.
Sure. I mean, if in December or January we see the infection rates continue to, go up and deteriorate, I mean, I'd be the first one to say, look, there's no way, there's no path to in-person, and I'd like to reconsider having distance learning through the year. I mean, that's what this does. It gives us that opportunity to see how things evolve. I mean, as you know, this has been something that changes on constantly, and the change and the conditions change, and so that's why the committee felt that we gave ourselves enough time to see how things were going to evolve over the winter, and continue to bring to the board updates and make a decision. Let's just say even things got better, significantly better, which probably not, but let's just assume that we would then be able to bring those updates to the board. So that was the discussion with the advisory, and why we felt that giving us up until winter break made sense. And I understand this whole stop and go. That's why I say that if by that time we didn't believe that we could reopen in person, then it would be best, and I would come to the board with a recommendation for distance learning through June.
Correct.
George.
Yeah, Rudy, go ahead, Rudy.
I haven't, George. I mean, I have not heard one scientist say that we're going to get better in the wintertime. In fact, every scientist that has spoken on this topic has said we're going to get worse. So if you know of a scientist that said it's going to get better, let me know, and I'll be happy to listen to that scientist. But I'm looking at what the scientists say, and they say we're going to peak in January. So how can we make a decision in December? I think that's too soon. If anything, we should look at it in February. But I'll tell you, and I'll tell you another reason why I think we should just make a decision why I made the motion to stay, to remain distance learning until June 15th, was because it's a lot easier to reopen hybrid, bringing the students back in, than it is to bring them back in, in April or even in the middle of the school year, and then close down again. Because a lot of parents will say, oh, we're reopening, I'll go back to work, and that's, and everything, and they'll change their situations. But if we keep it distance learning, they can know what to expect. And if we go back to reopening hybrid, at least, they'll be able to take advantage of that if we open hybrid a month or two before the end of the school year. I just think it's too much not knowing what's going to occur to keep pushing the date we're going to reopen. Just continue it till the end of the school year based on what's been happening with this terrible virus, and then we'll make decisions along the way.
Yeah, and let me just clarify. I didn't. My comments were not that I have any knowledge of scientific knowledge that things are going to improve. I'm just saying that this virus and everything has evolved over time, and there could be a possibility. I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I just think that there's so much unknown that we left the door open. Believe me, I'm not advocating for us to not be in distance learning for the rest of the year. I just know that the discussion with the committee was not wanting to close that door, right, here in November for the rest of the year, with not knowing what conditions will exist later on. It would be easier, to be honest with you, to just come with a recommendation to say distance learning through June, because then we would not have to spend any time on any preparations and planning and trying to execute in-person plans, and just focus on distance learning. So please don't misunderstand what my position in terms of what we're presenting from the advisory group and the discussion we had. And it was really about not closing the door on a potential in-person, because some students are struggling with distance learning. We know that. And so if there was an opportunity for us to do that for some or most, we wanted to have that door open for in the spring when if the conditions were right. And I agree with all of you that it's about the safety and the well-being of our students and our families and our staff first and foremost as well.
Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question on that note, George?
Yes, go ahead, Maimona. Yes, go ahead.
So if we were to proceed with this, approving this current motion, would that actually close the door for any other specific high need students later on? Like if we get to April, does that mean we would not have the option even to bring back even a smaller number of group, or even bring back staff on a voluntary basis?
So based on the current motion, we would have to come back to the board for you to approve that. My concern would be, like I think you mentioned, Maimona, in regards to just the messaging about the confusion about at that point, are we opening, who's coming? But with the current motion as it stands, if it passes, we would have to come back to you and make a different proposal, and then the board approve it.
Yeah, see, that is my only hesitation, is I'm concerned about how all of this is going to be communicated and what's going to be easiest to follow and least confusing. Because if we're saying we're going the rest of the year, but then we're going to come back and then make a different decision or change it, that's really difficult to follow. And I think that's going to cause some anxiety too, just around what the parameters of that looks like if we were to, if it does get brought back then.
Well, Maimona, I would be willing to accept an amendment to continue to monitor and look at special needs students as the priority of revisiting for a hybrid model.
I would also like to take a look at ELD students, you know.
Okay, well, how about we just have an amendment that specific groups of students and as an opportunity to revisit for a hybrid model.
That would be great.
Well, you have to make the amendment because I can't make an amendment on my motion.
Okay. I would like to ask for an amendment to the current motion to include the possibility of including specific high needs student populations, including students with disabilities and English language learners and newcomers.
Yes.
For the potential of reopening. Would that be revisited by the February date then?
I would say at any given time when it's safe. This way.
At any given time when it's safe. Okay.
And also, oh, never mind. Ton seconded.
Ton, go ahead. Yeah, that would be good. I think those are good additions, amendments, I guess, to the motion, and something that I would feel comfortable with.
Just point of order, Board President. I think Carrie needs to second because she was the second on the.
Oh, that's.
I second that.
Okay. All right.
Well, we can avoid a vote on the amendment I can just accept it as an amendment.
Okay.
That's acceptable. That way we don't have to vote on the amendment and then the motion. We can just vote on the motion entirely with the amendment. Okay. So I'll accept that.
That's fine. Okay. Okay, board members, are we ready to vote on this amendment? With the changes, with the changes, of course. Okay, so let's go ahead and put that forth. We already have a first and a second, again, with the changes that were mentioned. So let's go ahead and take a roll call. Rudy?
Yes.
Carrie?
Aye.
Ton?
Aye.
Maimona?
Aye.
And George, and I vote aye too. Okay. All right, so thank you very much, everybody, for that discussion. And so and let's see how things go. You know what I'm interested in seeing is how 28,000 kids going back to school with San Jose Unified. That's our biggest school district in the county, and I'd be interested to see what happens with that population. You know, and they're all going. It doesn't matter whether special needs or ELD. Everybody. That's what I understand. I don't know. Maybe they'll change. But that'll be interesting to see what happens with that school district. Anyway, all right. Okay, thank you, everybody, for that. And with that, let's move on down to item 6.02. We have a presentation. It's a 2021 update on the district's dual immersion language programs.
I'm going to ask Sammer.
Or
it's me.
Norma's going to be doing the presentation, but I'm going to ask Sammer if he can make Norma a co-host so she can share the presentation. And
there I am.
Oh, there you are. Oh, you already.
I did it. I think I did it. I just have to figure out how to. There we go. Good evening, everyone, again, and thank you for your support. And I'm here to provide you an update on the dual immersion programs in our district as upon the request of the board. We say in Franklin-McKinley School District that 2 languages and 1 child equals infinite possibilities of dual language immersion. And we keep using this statement as our marketing statement, but also to emphasize the hope and the goal that we have in our district to really capitalize on the gifts that many of our children bring to their school, which is another language. So as a reminder, dual language immersion programs are research-based programs that have been in existence for decades. We started our first dual language immersion program last year with our Vietnamese program. But basically, just as a reminder, our dual language immersion is a research-based program where you have 2 groups of students who speak 2 different languages. They learn the language from one another, and at the same time, they are learning grade level content. So the goals of the program, and many times people refer to these programs as as two-way bilingual immersion or dual language immersion, but the goals of the programs are always the same. And that is that we will develop high levels of language proficiency in 2 languages, that while they are learning to read and write and speak in those 2 languages, that they are also performing academically in those 2 languages. So the assessments that we put forth in these programs require the students to be able to demonstrate that they have grade level knowledge and understand the content in the 2 languages. And at the same time that they are learning how to move about and how to navigate in a multicultural world. Many times students who are enrolled in these programs really learn how to appreciate differences and how to navigate cultural proficiency in their communities. How these programs work is that the languages are used in the classroom, but never interchangeably. In other words, academic periods are carefully structured, and the teacher and the students use 1 language at a time. It's always fun to code switch and to mix languages, and we do that many times when we bilinguals are older, just to have fun with language. And that is usually a talent that kids learn eventually. But when they are in the classroom and we are trying to teach them academic content in a language, we emphasize speaking 1 language at a time. So the separation of the languages is very important in the program. We also want to make sure that there's a balance of the 2 languages in a classroom. Here I said Spanish and English, but it could be English and Vietnamese or English and Mandarin. So we want to make sure that we have enough students that speak the 2 languages in the classroom, so because they serve as models for one another in the classroom. And then a third part of this important program is to make sure that we give status to the 2 languages. We live in an English-speaking world. English dominates everything that we do. So the risk is always, how do we increase the status? How do we make it important to speak what we call the minority language or the target language? So we do extra things in schools to make sure that signage is in 2 languages, that principals and teachers in the office or the staff in the office are speaking the 2 languages, that we really emphasize the pride that we should have in giving the 2 languages the status in order to build bilingual and bicultural individuals. So we are fortunate in Franklin-McKinley to have 2 dual language immersion programs. I'm very proud of that accomplishment. Our Vietnamese dual immersion program is now in its 2nd year of implementation. It started last year with 2 kinder classes, and those kinder classes are now in 1st grade. And then we recruited for 2 more classes. So now we have 4 classes at Windmill Springs. Next year, we'll move up to 2nd grade. So every year we'll be adding 2 classes to build a strand over at Windmill Springs. This year, we proudly began our Spanish dual immersion program at Meadows Elementary. We now have 2 kinder classes at that school, and next year those kinder classes will go up to 1st grade and so on. This gives you an idea of the enrollment. So it's always ideal, as I mentioned earlier, to have a significant number of students that speak English and also a significant number of students that speak the target or the minority language. So here's a nice breakdown of what that looks like. You can see in our Spanish dual language immersion class this year, our enrollment is 17 in one class and 19 in the other. So the maximum number for those classes is 24. We did unfortunately lose students. We had almost full classes over the summer. But as we got closer to the beginning of the school year, and as we realized that we were going to be in distance learning, we did lose families who chose to remain at their home school, or families that were coming from out of the district who decided to, who made other plans. But nevertheless, we maintained the enrollment. And you can see that each one of those classes has English only students who are learning Spanish as their 2nd language. We've got Spanish ELs in that class, and we've got initially fluent kids. What are initially fluent kids? Initially fluent kids may be bilingual students. They may be students who already speak Spanish, but have attained a high level of English proficiency, and so they're identified as fluent English proficient. We often think of these students as close to English only kids. So that's a nice balance for those 2 classes. If you look at the numbers for our Vietnamese program, you'll see that they have many more English learner students. So, and we have fewer English only students. So really our goal is to try to recruit more English only students into the classroom so that we can get that balance, that linguistic balance that we need. Just something to think about is that if we continue to recruit and enroll English learner Vietnamese students and not have as many English proficient students, we end up becoming what's called a one-way immersion program. And then it's no longer a dual language immersion program. So we want to make sure that we're recruiting that linguistic balance that we need in the classes. But nevertheless, we're excited to have the programs, and the Vietnamese program is doing great, and many, many parents continue to be interested. So how do we recruit for these classes? I thought it would be interesting for the board to understand the process. So we begin marketing and recruiting around January. Thanks to Yelisa Pena, who's no longer with us. She was the spearhead of all this. She would organize with the district liaisons to go to community events, when we had community events, to go recruit at different fairs and different community events. We also publicize on radio. We send flyers out to homes. There were visits made to the preschool open houses to talk about our programs and to recruit and to get interest for the program. Then families would complete an interest form. And based on that interest form, we would call those parents or contact those parents and invite them to what we call a parent information meeting. Those parent information meetings are required to be attended by the parent because we want the parent to understand how the program works. We want them to make a commitment, a long-term commitment of several years, because in order to build the bilingual and the biliterate skills of the students, we need to have them for several years in the program so that they can truly develop those skills. Last year, we began tours at Windmill Springs, so families would attend an orientation, or I'm sorry, a parent information meeting, as you see in this image right here. And then they were able to tour the classroom just so they could actually see the teachers and the students in action. Once the families visit, they attend the parent information meeting, and they are instructed on how to enroll their child in Franklin-McKinley School District. We review those enrollment forms and we accept them, and then we have families complete a commitment letter just to verify that they understand the goals of the program and that they're committed to keeping their children in the program for the duration of their elementary school years. Working with the principals of the school sites, we begin to linguistically balance the classes so that we have a significant number of models of the two languages. And right before school begins in August, we invite parents to an orientation meeting at the respective sites so that parents know what to expect when their children begin kindergarten in August. So we talk about units of study, what will they be learning, ways that parents can help their children, especially if they don't speak the target language. And they also learn about the classroom, and they understand that it may be a little traumatic for some of the students who don't speak Vietnamese or Spanish, and they go to school and hear this language that they don't understand. And so we work with the parents to try to support them and to let them know that, you know, if there is some fear or some discomfort in those first few days, what to do about that. Usually we have a few children that are, you know, have a hard time, but after a few days, it usually goes away after they meet friends and they realize that they're in an exciting program where they're actually learning to be bilingual. So the Spanish dual immersion program that we have in our district is a 90-10. It's called a 90-10 because in kindergarten, 90% of the day is taught in the target language in Spanish and 10% is taught in English. And so as the children move up in the grades, we increase the percentage of English and we decrease the amount of Spanish so that around fourth grade, half of the day is taught in Spanish and half of the day is taught in English. The Vietnamese program that we offer in Franklin-McKinley is a 50-50 model. So as you can see here, half of the day is taught in Vietnamese and half of the day is taught in English. Why did we do that? So in a 90-10 model, the research is very solid that it has a better chance of creating bilingual, biliterate students because they are immersed in a language. They learn to read in the target or in the minority language first, and then they add on English literacy later on. Because of our limitation with identifying enough Vietnamese materials and resources, it was decided that we should go with a 50-50 model. And most of the districts who have open Vietnamese dual programs, like in Westminster School District in Southern California and other districts that have opened up these programs in Portland, have also said that they've begun with 50-50 for the same reason. So here's just an example of what it looks like if you are enrolled in the Vietnamese dual language immersion kindergarten classroom. So you have two teachers. One teacher is the Vietnamese model. The other is the English speaking model. We hire one Vietnamese bilingual credentialed teacher. We hire one teacher that is going to be providing all of the English instruction that does not need to be bilingual. And so basically they teach for, you know, the Vietnamese teacher teaches all of the reading, the language development, the social studies and science that's integrated. And then they switch classrooms. The English teacher is responsible for the math and for the English language arts part of the day. So actually the two teachers share the two classrooms, students because they have to switch the classes after they've taught their content areas. The Spanish program works a little bit different. It's a 90-10. So most of the day is taught in Spanish. They get their reading in Spanish. They get their language development in Spanish. They learn their phonics in Spanish. They get their math in Spanish. The only part of the day, as you can see here, and this is a distance learning schedule. If we were in brick and mortar, it would be probably more like 30 minutes. But because of the synchronous time that teachers are providing, it comes up to about 15 minutes. So during that 15 minutes, it's when they're taught English language arts. The English only students in those classrooms, that's when they're doing their literacy in English. It's differentiated by the teacher. But this is just to give you an example of how the teachers have adapted to distance learning with the dual immersion model. So the strength of the program really belongs to the teachers. The teachers who have been hired are highly bilingual. They are credentialed by the state of California to teach in these bilingual settings. The kindergarten teachers have bilingual paraeducators who support the classroom and the students. The teachers in both programs are provided planning days and have been given all the curriculum that they need. Our department has checks in with both schools, with the principal and the staff. We purchased all of the core curriculum that they needed and provided all the startup costs and the supplies. It's a collaborative effort with the schools, but the Ed Services does as much as they can to support the teachers, so the teachers can only worry about teaching and planning. And we are very fortunate to have two strong partners that work with us. I know that the board last year met Dr. Natalie Tran from the National Resource Center of Asian Languages. She continues to be our partner and works with the teachers over the summer in preparing for the upcoming year. We will be working with her to prepare the second grade teachers this year. And she will be meeting with the team that is currently working just to see how things are going and to provide resources. Dr. Tran has the ability to identify curriculum for us, books for the children. These are hard to find. Sometimes she has a team at the university who helps translate. So we're really fortunate to have her as a partner. We are also fortunate to have the Association of Two-Way Dual Language Education who helps the Spanish bilingual program. We have a coach or a mentor that works with our two teachers. The photo that you see here are our two kindergarten teachers over at Meadows. We're really excited to have them, and they're doing a phenomenal job building this program as the first year in distance learning. Let's not forget in distance learning. So these two organizations really are partnerships that we just couldn't live without. They've really been instrumental in helping us to implement these two wonderful programs. So what I'd like to share with the board is what are our strengths. So feedback from the principals, my own observation of the classrooms. And feedback from the teachers is that it's evident that our teachers really understand the program. They use the two languages at high levels of proficiency. They plan together. It's absolutely necessary that in a program like dual language immersion, that teachers work as a team and that they plan regularly. We are fortunate that we have district bilingual staff. Taylor Nguyen primarily supports the Vietnamese program with Dr. Tran. I support the Spanish dual immersion program over at Meadows. And then our principals have been amazing, and the two schools have embraced the programs, which is a good thing, because sometimes it can be, in some cases, divisive because you have a specialized program within a larger school. But as of yet, the two schools have a staff that has embraced the two programs, which is really important to note. And we continue to have interest in the two programs. Some ongoing challenges that we have is, first and foremost, our Vietnamese dual language immersion. We struggle to find highly qualified Vietnamese speaking teachers. This year, we're going to be working with Dr. Tran from Southern California. She actually has a credentialing program at the university to certify Vietnamese teachers. So we're working on a partnership right now on how to do that and being prepared for next year and the years to come. So that is always one of the first things we start thinking about, is we need to start recruiting our teachers and identifying them now. Distance learning has been a challenge this year, because if we were in brick and mortar and these would be full day kinder classes, the students would be able to take advantage of a full day of interaction with their peers. The strength of becoming bilingual, biliterate comes with the interactions that come amongst the students as facilitated by the teacher. A little bit more challenging to do on Zoom, especially with very young children, but the teachers are making it work to the best that they can right now. So, and then I guess I also shared with you that we lost some students in our Spanish dual immersion when we went to distance learning. So that was a challenge. And we're hoping that that won't be the case for next year. So as I close, I just want to remind you that last year, the board passed a resolution for a pathway to biliteracy, recognizing that our district values bilingualism and that we see that as an asset in our students. And that is something that we need to enhance and continue to promote, not only in our dual language immersion programs, but for all students who happen to be bilingual. And I'm sure there are students there that can read and write in their primary language. So all of this to say that I want to thank the board for your support, for your recognition that these programs should be implemented, and I'm hoping that we can open more. So thank you, and I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Norma, for that excellent presentation. Very eye-opening, and I know that this year is kind of a little bit more of a struggle with the dual language programs because of the the circumstances there. Kids can't interact with each other, of course, like they do in the classroom, but the teachers are definitely making a go at it. Board members, do you have questions at this time you might want to ask? Rudy, do you have any questions?
No questions.
No questions. Carrie?
No questions, just a quick comment. Thank you for all the hard work in these two programs.
Welcome.
Ton?
Yeah, a couple of questions here. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Norma. I mean, you've been a driving force for both of these dual immersion classes, and I'd like to extend my thanks to Taylor as well for her hard work and dedication to the first dual immersion, Vietnamese dual immersion school in Santa Clara County. So I know you went through the challenges and opportunities. Is there going to be an issue filling up the next kindergarten class for the Vietnamese dual immersion, considering the current state we're in right now?
We didn't actually lose too many kids in the Vietnamese, for the Vietnamese program. We actually had a short wait list. So I'm going to be hopeful and say no. But we start recruitment in January, so we'll see.
Okay. Okay.
We're going to have to figure out what we're going to have to say to our families, because that's the first question they're going to ask. Is it going to be in person, or is it going to be, in distance learning? So we should know more by then.
The only thing I would add, Ton, is we'll have to find ways to reach out to the community, because right before we went in March, right when we closed, we had already been recruiting at the preschools and these other places. I'm hoping that now it's in its, going to be in its third year, and a lot of word of mouth is really how some of these things get filled. And so with the help of our families, our kinder and first grade families, we're hoping that that's not a challenge, but we're going to have to find ways in places where we normally would have presented the program to our families for both dual language programs. So that's something that we'll have to think about where those opportunities are.
Right. Oh, so in terms of curriculum for both school sites, can we say that we're comfortable in our distance learning curriculum for our dual immersion schools?
Are we comfortable? We have, so the Spanish, obviously there are many more curricula available in Spanish, because most of the dual immersion programs around us are in Spanish. So there's always an abundance. The Vietnamese program is one where we have to constantly be working on curriculum development. We hired a Vietnamese district liaison to work at Windmill Springs. It's an it's another person as a resource to translate curriculum. We learned that from one of the schools that we visited in Southern California that did that. So we were able to fund a position and do that to support the teachers at that site. So that's a great help. But in all honesty, we're always trying to be ahead of what the teachers are teaching, because we have to constantly create and develop curriculum.
So was it Dr. Tran, who consults us with that Vietnamese curriculum? Has she been helping us get through distance learning and understanding what we need to do?
Yes, she met with the teachers throughout the summer and last spring and throughout the summer. She's the one that taught them how to do videos. She's really she is the consultant to all the other Vietnamese dual immersion programs. So she brings resources to us. She shares. She connects us to other schools. It's working right now. I don't know what I would do without her, but it is a challenge. Having enough Vietnamese curriculum is a challenge. There's never enough books. Teachers have to create a lot, and that's why I compensate the teachers when they do meet and they create curriculum, because I know it's challenging.
Right, thank you. So do let us know if there's any more issues that may come up. May come about, and then whatever the board can do to support that, we'll just have to make sure. I mean, it's very unfortunate that we're in the situation we are when we launched 2 dual immersion schools and having it kind of, sucks to say, but interrupted by this pandemic. Because I know when it comes down to learning new languages, it's the people you surround yourself with in person to really, hammer down what you've learned in class and use it in real life application and things like that. So here's to hoping for the best, but do let us know if you run into any further challenges with both dual immersion sites.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Maimona?
I just want to say thank you again for all the information and the hard work on the programs. These are 2 of the programs that I feel like I'm most proud of in our district. They are definitely bright spots that I'm glad that we continue to support and celebrate. And it's very encouraging to know that our community and our students and families have these options in terms of just developing the skill biliteracy and multiculturalism. So thank you again.
And thank you, Norma, once more for your presentation tonight. I was going to ask a question on the materials, but Ton asked it for me, so I got the explanation. So thank you, and just thank the staff members and tell them to keep up the great work.
Thank you all. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Okay, let's go on to item 6.03, deals with superintendent's annual goals. Superintendent's annual goals. Superintendent.
Yes, so I just bring this forward as I did last year as a way to increase transparency around the goals that the board has set forward. Obviously, we've discussed these before. These don't require an action. So I just bring them forward for input and for any discussion that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Juan. Board members, do you have any, if you take a look at the goals, do you have any questions you want to ask at this time? You can do so right now.
George, I have, I guess, just a consideration. I know that, the board and the superintendent were part of the board retreat, but I'm wondering, for the sake of clarity, whether it would be possible to include a short, couple of words for each goal to demonstrate what the intent is behind the goal. And so I'll go through some of the examples for the first goal. It asks, the superintendent will report student progress twice, January and June, per the learning continuity and attendance plan. And so I'm wondering if we could add to demonstrate student growth as one of the things that we are trying to monitor.
Okay.
So I can continue. There's about 3 more short statements that I'm wondering if we can include, again, just for the sake of clarity around the intent of the goal for anyone who wasn't a part of the discussions at the board retreat. So the second one, the superintendent will present to the board the program evaluation the district will use to evaluate the impact of its initiatives, and use this to report to the board the impact of 3 long-term initiatives, inclusion, SEAL, and CORAL, at a board meeting in April. And that would be to evaluate the effectiveness of those programs. So that's the portion that I'm asking us to consider adding there. The third one, the superintendent will continue to provide stakeholders an avenue to provide input, and will report to the board on a bi-monthly basis a summary of the input. And then the part that I'm asking us to consider is to increase district transparency and communication. And then goal 4, the superintendent will provide semi-annual reports to the board by school site. And the part I'd like us to consider is to indicate areas of improvement / progress at each site. So I'm wondering if that's something, the board can take into consideration with the superintendent on including, so again, so that the intent of the goals are clear.
Okay, thank you, Maimona. Board members, did you have any comments on these possible additions to the superintendent's goals?
I fully support it.
Okay, Carrie, thank you. Rudy?
No questions. I just rather read it all in writing.
Okay, and then
Thank you.
Ton?
I'm sorry, Maimona, can you repeat how you want this to look like again?
So all it is the goals are staying the same. It's just including a couple of words on the intent of each specific goal. So again, I know we don't need to vote on this, so it can just be shared, at a later time. But just again, for clarity, is adding the intent along with each goal. So if it's talking about student progress, the intent behind that is to demonstrate growth.
Right, so like go
evaluate
1,
effectiveness.
we have the superintendent's will report about that thing, and then under go 1, we could just put intent and then a colon. Just
sure, it could be done that way. Yeah, it could be done that way.
Okay. This one, okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you, Maimona, for clarifying that.
I think those are good, Maimona. I agree with them. Superintendent, did you want to make a comment on those?
No, I agree. I mean, those of us that were in the meeting and had the discussion, know what the intent, but I agree that for transparency purposes, and since we are sharing it with the public, that adding that will just solidify the intent behind the goal.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get those additions added to the goals in terms of determining, the progress for each one of those with that additional information. All right. Thank you, Superintendent. Anything else on this, board members?
Well,
this information.
I'd like to share it in writing, please.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
So what I'll do, Board President, is I will make those edits and then send it to the whole board.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay, that'll be fine. Okay, Rudy. So we'll do that. Get that out to all of us. Yeah. All right. Thank you for that, everybody. Okay, let's go on to item number 7, which deals with the consent items. This is a consent item under $25,000. So again, the public can address us on any of these items, and then we'll limit the remarks to 3 minutes if we are addressed on these items. And so if you can take a look at those 7.01, 2, and 3, and take a look at those and let me know if you're okay with those. I'll need a motion and a second.
Move to approve items 7.01 through 7.03.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve items 7.01 through 7.03, and we'll take roll call on this. Board Member Rudy?
Yes.
Carrie?
Aye.
Tan?
Aye.
Maimona?
Aye.
And George, and I vote aye too, so that passes unanimously. Let's go on to item number 8. These are consent items over $25,000. And again, the members of the public can address us on these particular items, and they'll have 3 minutes for their remarks. And so today we have 8.01 through 8.04. If you take a look at those, board members, do you want to any of these to be pulled? If not, I'll need a motion for item number 8.
Move to approve consent items 8.01 through 8.04.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve items 8.01 through 8.04, and we'll do a roll call. Rudy?
Yes.
Carrie?
Aye.
Tan?
Aye.
Maimona?
Aye.
And George, and I vote aye. So that passes unanimously. Okay, let's go on to item number 7, which deals with construction items. And these are items dealing, of course, with the construction in our schools, our district somewhere. And so again, take a look at those, board members. If you want to pull one for discussion, let me know. If not, I'll need a motion and a second to approve these.
Move to approve items 9.01 and 9.04.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve construction items 9.01 through 9.04. And we'll do a roll call. Rudy?
Yes.
Okay, Carrie?
Aye.
Tan?
Aye.
Maimona?
Aye.
And George, and I vote aye too. Okay, so that passes unanimously. All right, let's go on to action items. Let's go to 10.01, our personnel report, and I'll have Maimona go ahead and read that out.
Thank you, President Sanchez. I move that the personnel report be approved as submitted, and that A, the employment for the following employee be approved. Jaime Palominos, custodian at Stonegate, effective November 16th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, item 10.01, our personnel report. Let's do a roll call. Rudy?
Yes.
Carrie?
Aye.
Tan?
Aye.
Maimona?
Aye.
And George, and I vote aye too. So that passes unanimously. Let's go on to item 10.02, the October 27th.
And if that was Jamie, I apologize. I just, on the name.
Okay, we go to 10.02, the October 27th, 2020 board meeting minutes. If you can take a look at those minutes, and then I'll need a motion and a second on that item.
Move to approve the October 27th board meeting minutes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second to approve the October 27th board meeting minutes. We'll do roll call. Rudy,
Yes.
Carrie,
Aye.
Ton,
Aye.
Maimona,
Aye.
and George, and I vote aye. So that passes unanimously. Okay, let's go on to item 10.03, approval of resolution number 2020-57, authorizing the district to participate in the lower emissions school bus program by Bay Area Air Quality Management District. Action item 10.03. Jason, did you want to make any comments on this one?
I realize that it's late, so I'll just
Yep.
open up to questions on this item. But as you can see, we're trying to apply for a grant to get some free.
Yes. Great. Okay. All right, board members, I'll need a motion, a second on this item.
Move to approve action item 10.03.
Second.
We have a first and a second on 10.03. Let's do a roll call. Rudy,
Yes.
Carrie,
Aye.
Ton,
Aye.
Maimona,
Aye.
and George. Aye. So that passes unanimously. And that completes our action items. Let's go on to item number 11 on our agenda, communications from the superintendent. Superintendent.
Thank you. I'll keep it short.
Yes.
First of all, I just want to thank the FMSD voters for their approval of Measure K, our partial tax that was on the ballot. And want to thank the committee, Jason, Orti, and Joanne for their work in getting this approved by our voters. So it reassures us that our community has great trust in us, that they're going to provide this additional funding for our district. So I want to thank everybody for your support on that. And certainly thanking the board for your trust in putting this on the ballot when we didn't have the certainty of it like we normally do, and having a survey that would have sort of helped us with that. So again, I think that this again shows the commitment that our families have, our voters have, in terms of providing the resources for our students and our families. And then just want to report that I'm visiting classrooms virtually. And so I want to thank the staff, the parents, the students for their cooperation and their hard work every day in implementing distance learning. It is not easy by any means on all fronts, but I am encouraged by what I'm seeing and just the level of commitment from everyone in trying to make the best out of this very difficult situation, and looking forward to the day that we don't have to be in distance learning and it's safe for everybody to return. So thank you for everything you are doing in supporting our students and our families. That was it.
Thank you, Superintendent. And at this point, we go to item number 12, communications from the Board of Education. So we go to board member reports, and I'll go down my roll call list for that. Rudy?
Yeah, I don't really have a report. I just want to wish everybody a good Thanksgiving, because I know we're not meeting until December. To all the teachers, staff, students, my fellow board members, and our leadership. I know it's going to be a challenge, and everybody's thinking about what to do regarding getting together with family. So, I haven't seen my relatives since last year, since Christmas. So I just want to wish you all the best over the holiday, the Thanksgiving holiday. That's it.
Thank you, Rudy. Carrie?
Just happy Thanksgiving to everyone and stay safe.
All right, thank you, Carrie. Ton?
Same thing. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Stay safe, stay disciplined, and hopefully we can get through this together. And one more to congratulate on our district's efforts on getting Measure K passed, and to the board that pushed this partial tax through. Well, I've always had faith in our community and in these dire times. So I'm very glad to see the community have their trust in us and help us pull through these constant recurring issues that we have with our school district regarding declining enrollment. So this would help a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ton. Maimona?
I just wanted to say, since I know we just had our election, and although George and I were not on the ballot, I'm grateful for the community's continued support. And I think just more broadly, it was a good reminder. I had an opportunity to speak with Bay City News, and just speaking on the importance of representation and, you know, having our students and community be able to see representation and people who look like them in leadership roles. And so I think it's just great. I'm grateful to be able to do this work. And so thank you again to everyone.
Thank you, Maimona. And for myself, I'm just glad the election is finally over. And so that was really nice, and nice to see Measure K pass. Some great literature was sent out by our group, and I think that made a big difference. Very, very solid information. And then, of course, the big turnout that we had, much more than any other year, I think helped us too. Again, thanks to everybody, and thanks to all of our teachers, the staff members that are classified, certificated for everything they do in our district, and wish all of them to have a nice Thanksgiving, and want to wish you all a nice Thanksgiving also. So thank you, everyone. And now we go on to item 12.02, agenda item requests. Board members, do you have any agenda item requests at this time? If not, let's go on to 13, which is future business. We'll go on to item 14, future meeting date. So again, this is our only meeting we have this month. December 8th, we'll meet once more at 7 p.m. remotely. And then 1402 on January the 12th, we'll meet once more, and we'll have two meetings again in January the 12th, and the 26th we'll be meeting again remotely. And closed session, we don't have to go back to that or go into that. And so I need a motion for adjournment on item 16.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to adjourn. So at this time, we will adjourn our meeting at approximately, looking at my watch, 9:14.
But we do need to vote on it. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, gee whiz. That's correct. All right. Let's vote on this. Thank you, Rudy. Let's vote on this agenda item. Rudy.
Yes.
Carrie.
Aye.
Ton.
Aye.
Maimona.
Aye.
And George. And I vote aye. And so at 9:14, we adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.